The Fawlty Towers scene that almost ended it all. Few television moments have stirred as much discussion as a single scene from a show that redefined British comedy. Fawlty Towers, that 12-episode masterpiece of chaos and razor-sharp satire, came closer to being cancelled than most people realize. How could humor so intelligent and fast-paced hit such a sensitive nerve? At the center stood Basil Fawlty, the short-tempered hotel manager whose disasters made him unforgettable and divisive. This is the story of how one scene sparked outrage, reshaped the show's legacy, and changed the limits of television comedy. The controversy began with an episode unlike any other one that pushed the boundaries of good taste and shocked even loyal fans. Fawlty Towers had always thrived on absurdity, but this time the joke went too far for many. What started as parody quickly drifted into uncomfortable territory, filled with references that made audiences squirm. Basil, as usual, was a film-ticking time bomb of frustration and poor judgment. His quick wit collided with his lack of awareness, producing some of the most memorable and divisive lines in sitcom history. His clumsy attempts to avoid offense only deepened the offense itself. Viewers were torn between laughter and disbelief. Some praised the scene as fearless satire, proof that the show could expose social prejudices by mocking them. Others condemned it as tone-deaf and cruel. The complaints flooded the BBC, forcing executives to ask where the line between daring comedy and disrespect should be drawn. In the end, the scene survived, but not without consequences. It became a symbol of the fine line comedians walk when tackling sensitive topics. The backlash shaped internal discussions at the network about how far satire could safely go. And though Fawlty Towers lasted only 12 episodes, the debate it sparked has echoed for decades. At the heart of the uproar was a single line: "Don't mention the war." What was meant to ridicule Basil's clueless nationalism became one of television's most controversial and enduring. It summed up both the genius and the danger of the show's humor. Hilarious, uncomfortable, and impossible to forget. Basil Fawlty wasn't invented out of thin air. He was inspired by Donald Sinclair, the eccentric owner of the Glen Eagles Hotel in Torque. When John Clay stayed there in 1970, Sinclair's paranoia and explosive temper fascinated him. Sinclair's hospitality bordered on hostility. He was convinced that every guest was a potential problem. In one infamous incident, he hurled a Montepithan crew member's briefcase over a garden wall, certain it was a bomb. Clay saw in him a living caricature, a man desperate for control who created chaos instead. Years later, Clay and his then-wife Connie Booth transformed that experience into Fawlty Towers. They exaggerated Sinclair's traits, the sarcasm, the nervous pride, the volcanic temper, until Basil became a study in human folly. The comedy worked because it came from truth. The gap between how people see themselves and how they behave. That blend of realism and exaggeration made the humor timeless. Beneath every tantrum was a reflection of ordinary insecurities, status, pride, and fear of failure. When Fawlty Towers first aired in 1975, critics didn't know what to make of it. Some called it too frantic, too strange, even too mean-spirited, but audiences loved it. They saw genius in the chaos and quickly turned it into a phenomenon. The cast chemistry sealed its success. John Clay's explosive Basil, Prunella Scales as the razor-tongued Sybil, Connie Booth's .com and Clever Polly, and Andrew Sachs's as the endlessly confused waiter, Manuel created the perfect storm of misunderstandings. Each character exposed a different slice of British life. Class anxiety, gender roles, cultural confusion, all wrapped in flawless timing and slapstick brilliance. After the first 6 episodes, there were talks of cancellation, but reruns and word of mouth revived it, leading to a second and final season in 1979. With only 12 episodes, the show became one of the most celebrated comedies in television history. The episode that almost ended it all was The Germans. Basil, suffering from a head injury, tries to host a group of German tourists. His effort to remain polite collapses spectacularly into chaos. Despite warning his staff, "Don't mention the war," Basil can't stop bringing it up until he's goose-stepping through the lobby in a fit of delirious absurdity. The intent was satire to mock outdated British obsessions with World War II, but many viewers didn't see it that way. To them, the jokes felt cruel, reopening old wounds. Letters poured into the BBC demanding the episode be banned. Others defended it fiercely, arguing that Basil's ignorance, not the Germans, was the real target. The BBC debated removing it, ultimately keeping it on air, but with cautionary notes. The argument reflected a broader cultural tension. Could comedy confront history without trivializing it? Even decades later, as streaming platforms revisited old shows, the Germans continued to stir debate. Some modern broadcasters edited or temporarily removed scenes. Fans accused them of censorship. Others praised the sensitivity. Cleels himself defended the work, reminding audiences that Basil was meant to be the fool. "We were mocking the British mentality," he said, "not the Germans." What began as a scandal ultimately became part of the show's legend. "Don't mention the war" entered the national vocabulary, quoted and parodied across generations. The episode turned into a touchstone for discussions about free speech, satire, and shifting moral standards. Fawlty Towers proved that comedy could be uncomfortable, confrontational, and still deeply human. It forced viewers to laugh and then think about why they were laughing. Behind the brilliance were real people giving everything they had. Clay and Booth, despite divorcing before the second series, continued writing together with precision and mutual respect. Prunella Scales balanced Sybil's venom with charm. Andrew Sachs's, as Manuel, endured physical pain from slapstick stunts, but made audiences adore him. Though the show ended in 1979, its influence has never faded. Comedians and writers around the world still study its timing, structure, and courage. It remains a masterclass in how far humor can stretch before it breaks, and how sometimes crossing that line is exactly what makes it unforgettable. Fawlty Towers may have lasted only 12 episodes, but its impact has lasted nearly 50 years. The controversy that once threatened to destroy it instead ensured its immortality. A reminder that great comedy often walks a dangerous line between discomfort and brilliance. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of television's boldest moments, remember to like and subscribe for more stories that shape the golden age of entertainment.